Yeah. Well, I guess I'm going to try something for the very first time, which is to do a video completely unrehearsed. So I had somebody this morning that I woke up to asking about my GPU particles, or at least how to set them up. Well, I'm not going to walk you through the entire setup of how to do it from the shader and whatnot, but I'll show you how to set mine up, because writing the actual code might take a bit of a long lesson. But we'll start with how the concept works of setting up at least the shader. From there you can probably figure out maybe how to do it yourself, question mark? Anyways, let's begin. I'm going to start by creating a new project in this case. Obviously we want to make this for cancel. Yeah, 2019 430 for the current version of VRChat. And this is you can see unrehearsed stuff. Got unrehearsed things happening. What happened here? Here we go. Try this again. 430. Apparently I might have accidentally created a Unity project. We'll call this GPU particles on jelly. That sounds bad. I'll just call it GPU particles jelly. There we go. Yeah. So just a moment for it to launch up. Come on, Unity. Okay, where did it go? It ended up on the wrong screen, of course. Let's see, GPU particles jelly. There we go. Alright, so, Unity. Here it is. Yay. Hold on. Oh. Again, unrehearsed, so you never know what's gonna go wrong. Yeah. Jelly, or Jellia Marina. There we go. Let's see, just drop that right in there. And that should load my most recent version of Jelly. There we go. Best way to avoid copyright issues is by using your own material. Yeet. Okay, still loading, still loading. I probably should have put this on the SSD or the NVMe drive instead of the ladder drive, but we're doing this anyways. Come on, let's go! Load, load, load! Sorry for the background noise, it sounds like garbage is going through the neighborhood. Okay, almost there. Almost there. Ah! Ah! I cannot say the quality of this video will be the best, but we'll do this. We'll do the best we can to get this to work. Still importing. It's going to take a bit longer. Prefab IDs, what's that about? Interesting, why did it put them there of all places? This is the exports, or the IDs to import to VRChat. Let's just go ahead and delete that. It's a little strange, a little quirky. Okay, so scenes. We have sample scene. That's not quite right. Well, we guess don't need a sample scene. We'll just call this as we would any avatar, jelly. Okay, I might as well, I guess, set up a direct light. One directional light. One gizmos are off. There we go. So let's turn that on so we can see what the light's doing. Yeah, it always gives a funky rotation. Let's fix that. There we go. Nice forward, but okay, maybe a little off forward. Like about right there. Okay, and we'll go there. We'll go ahead and use the Quest version of Jelly. Only, well, for the sake of optimize. Ooh, it's there we go. If you ever done this before, it's right click and then the scroll wheel here. See, it goes from slow to super fast. You have to hold right click and then scroll. Let's get that back at like 1.0 though. Okay, so okay, maybe not. There we go. There's Jelly. Yep. This is not using my shader, so let's switch that over to B, I believe. Oh yeah, there you go. B. Oh, this one isn't, but irrelevant to this video. Yeah. And then like 30,000. Yeah, 3,000, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, but not to be sidetracked. 0. Let's get these particles working. So I have this APK. No, that's an APK. Yeah, we want actually for this the source code. Although this might not be the version we really want to use for this, but this is the one that is publicly visible on my site that I assume people are using, which is, I'm assuming, no, I assume it's this one that people are using. I have another variant of it sitting in this repository, Unity shaders. So I have no clue which one people are using. I just know also this one is newer. So let's go with what's newer. Particle toy, assets, GPU particles. So okay, I already have GPU particles all set up in here as that. I'm going to go ahead and, since this is in a zip and assets folder, I'm just going to open the assets here. There we go. And so you see GPU particles, jelly, assets, and right into the assets folder. I'm going to go into the zip here, grab GPU particles, and drop it in. So it's there. So from that one to that one. Okay, that should be all for all that stuff. Alright. The next bit is setting up the actual thing. I know this is going to be the main thing involved. I usually put it around the root. There's another thing you can use that somebody out there created. It's an animation constraint. This won't be constrained, but I assume you all know how to do animation constraints, or you can find the prefab that exists for setting it up. Did that zip actually contain it? Okay, let's try this again. Okay, assets. So I don't see the animation constraint in here. You'll have to set it or find it manually or set it up yourself. In this particular case, let's go ahead and try to set it up ourselves. So you need an empty object. The idea is if this empty object, we'll call it GPU particles, is enabled, then an animation constraint will kick in. Oh, you know what? Do we not have... Yeah, we do. VRC SDK. So where's my animation constraint? I wonder. Oh, that's not a good error. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure to also reinstall the SDK because it's probably a bad variant of it. There we go. Oh boy, this is probably out of date actually. So let's just, I'm going to take it off screen because it could show something not very good. We should have an updated version sitting in here now. Or so I thought. 9.3. Oh, okay. It is 9.3. It says it's all installed. So that doesn't explain why we don't have animation constraints. Give me just a quick moment to go grab something. Okay. Unrehearsed entirely, yeah. Had just random interruptions. Okay, so yeah, there it is. I just didn't when a position constraint is active. So we want to lock it in place and freeze position accesses, so we don't really need a source. Not locking it to something, locking it in place. Although I could cheat. Let's cheat. Okay. I'm gonna let VRChat SDK 3 avatars open up in the background for a minute. And while that's doing that, let's set up this flower. For some reason, this thing is saying it didn't import. Very peculiar error. just gonna go ahead and let it do a total re-import, because you never know with Unity and these things. Okay. It's almost as if this entire project is corrupt. These don't look like correct sizes. Not at all. I don't know what it has here actually. None of this looks actually correct. So we have a problem here. I'm gonna go ahead and assume that that is the same thing as, and I'll fix this, by the way. I'll make sure to re-upload the GPU particles chunk into the repository. Matter of fact, we could even fix it now. This was a repository, right? Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead up there, get no, it didn't copy. It lied to me. Code, copy. Already exists. Okay, so what's the problem? I don't know what it's doing there. But let's see if it was as expected. So keep that open there for a second. GPU particles. GPU particle. We're just going to copy it directly out of here. Here's the sizes that are correct in here. Very much different. Well, files are the same. So what do I get? I get an actual texture. Okay. So these things are all correct, but just see. Let's bring this over. There we go. And butter. Hey, now we're getting somewhere. I guess somehow corrupt files got pushed up to the repository, so I think I fixed it, but it may not be. If it's not, yell at me. I'll make sure to get it fixed. But that's a start. So let's get this constraint back to the center. There we go. Give it a nice little rotation that it needs. There we go. And then I closed the thing that I needed to open while I was trying to figure out what was going on. Okay, so reopen avatars. There we go. Probably want this to stand out about right there. Alright, so here's the fun part. The whole setup has some interesting things that are going on. The flower and two cameras need to be in here. There's particles. Hey, look at that. Guess what? So there is our system overall. Lunar flower sitting in here with the particles. So what it is this is the object, the mesh, and what goes on the mesh. Interesting. Why is there nothing else on there? Looks like there's a couple of things that need to be fixed. We have excuse me, but we have the flower itself, which it should have a render buffer on it, but it's the thing there, so I'm just going to go ahead and open this prefab up actually. Yeah, you see it says it's GP particles render geometry version. Don't need it to be. Oh, geometry convert. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's converting it to a point cloud, right? That's the main piece. That's the renderer. The renderer, the idea behind it is that the renderer renders the output data from the compute shader. So this is basically doing the result, and it's doing it from the flower. So it takes the flower and converts it to points, which are determined, their positions are determined by this. The compute buffer, for some reason, is currently not working. So let's go in here and set that up. This is clearly using a camera buffer, so I'll set the camera buffer. And it seems to remember the settings, which is, and I'll also repack this prefab because it looks like it's set up incorrectly. So this is going top down, like effect. So this camera, you'll see it's looking at something and it gets red. Well, actually, it's not looking at something, it's really missing. This layer, we don't even have VRChat layers. What's going on here? Just installed it as Y, so let's add the VRC Avatar Descriptor on here. There we go. Then show control panel. Okay, get where you belong. I'm going to go ahead and log in. Okay, this is bizarre. Normally it would have said, oh, your stuff is not set up, we need to actually set it up, but That's very strange. We do need the default layers though. Strange that it's not showing. That's not showing the settings. Flash here. Nope. That's also very strange, but you know what? This is again why we have, when you already have set up the existing setup and fix what's going on. So these are layers that should have been there. Don't know why they weren't there. I'll just click edit there to have it pop open the window or what? Ow. Don't you just love it when nothing goes quite right? Sitting somewhere in my display, but somewhere that I can't get to. Oh, that's wonderful. Thanks, Unity. Much appreciated. Windows layouts could not be found. That's bizarre. Okay, let's try this again. Edit layer. There we go. Nowhere. Okay, well, I'm going to move this to the other screen here, so it's off screen for you guys. I'm going to leave it open so I can see. Add layer. Also, it works there. Huh. The settings here are very different. Okay, I found a panel. Okay, so this is unfortunately what I'm going to have to do is one by one copy each one here. Sometimes you just gotta frickin' do it. Let's check something before I upload this video, and the entire time, okay, I have been recording my voice, good. It would suck if I did all of this and then like none of it was recorded. Okay, and then 22, okay, there we go. Okay, so the end idea is that this, and it looks like default. Right, that should be on default, this should be on default, this should be on UI menu. That's worse, okay. And so should this. The reason for that and the reason for UI menu is so it doesn't show up in VRChat. Like if the main camera hides the UI menu typically. So you put it on the UI menu so it's out of your actual player view. However, this does mean that the UI menu is has it present, and the UI menu can interact with it, which could get funky. I'm also noticing another problem here. So many problems with this thing. The mesh is not assigned. This is supposed to be like a plane, but it doesn't appear to have really set itself up. So I think maybe it was because of Unity 2018 or something, but I believe just setting it to a plane like so. Nope, not. That was incorrect to assume. there is no other mesh in here, so I'm not sure what mesh it was using. Let's try a quad. Is a quad. Okay, so, but it's still far too large for this camera. It's supposed to fit within this nice tightly within the white lines. Obviously we can't just resize it. So there is a component missing, which I will grab in just a second here. Avatar, there we go. Alright, so here's my avatar, which does have the toys variant. And the toys variant does have particles set up. So let's take a look at what it was using that is missing. Plane. An M plane. Missing from NeuroSim. Well then, there's how it happened. Let's grab that out of the NeuroSim and put it in specifically. Is this using? Yeah, okay. It's shaded. Yeah, the shader for it is isolated. So one M plane didn't get added to the repository, so we'll go ahead and make sure that gets this, and then I'll make sure it gets added into the repository. And then we just go ahead and assign plane like that. 1M obviously referring to 1 meter. So as you see, they fit tightly like within the camera. One camera points one way, one camera points the other way. The concept here is to create a double buffer. So the one camera sees this surface, the other camera sees this surface. And so this camera here that's looking at buffer, where is it looking at? Not sure which one it's looking at. Whatever one it's looking at, it takes in or it outputs to buffer out. So buffer input goes into buffer, obviously, or actually that takes compute RT. Okay, well, wherever. That renders the compute RT. This camera then looks at the input, which then goes here. Here's the compute input. The default shape is the default shape the particle system. This is something that's pre-baked, and I'm glad it is working, because if it didn't work, this would not work at all. We do want to check the settings on this though in here and make sure that, yeah, RGBA 16S float. This is what it should say. So what this is about is this is the format for the data that's in that texture. It's a signed float, which nerdy talk, that means it goes, you know, positive and negative. It's a full float, 16-bit float. So that allows us to put actual, like, three-dimensional positioning into the shader. So real numbers, basically. So the magic trick to how the compute shader is doing its thing is it'll do X for RGBA, it'll do X, Y, Z, W. And that holds the position of each particle. And that's what the compute shader itself is doing, is moving those particles around. Now when playing around with this in VRChat, the only people who can see it are your friends because of these cameras. These cameras, VRChat had opted that they'll keep allow cameras still on avatars, but they only allow your friends to see them. So they have to have already been your friend before entering the room, is the other trick to it as well. So if you friend someone to go, hey, look at my GPU particles, you have to remind them that they also have to rejoin the room so that they can see the cameras, so they'll turn on for them. And now the rest of the setup here. First, let's see if the flower is even working. I'm going to go ahead and hit play. I am just seeing a scramble of data. The buffer, this is the compute. You should have reset. Okay, that's it. Appears to be some kind of issue, obviously. Cameras are seeing light. Doesn't appear to be getting anything. This appears to be getting data, but buffer. This camera is looking. Whoa, that changed everything for some reason. It's getting red though, because I don't know why. Okay, so that should be pointed. Okay, so each one points to the other. So this camera points actually to the compute object, buffer object points. Okay, so the compute object here, we should be seeing information on the compute shader specifically. Here's all that and compute stuff. So when this reset is held, it should actually be going to the compute, or the default shape, and computing. I'm not sure what the flicker is about here. Almost as if it was banned. The of compute, these two compute shaders are okay, now we have a problem. In 3 different render textures. Oh, compute RT. Which one do we have here? Compute particles, buffer, compute RT. That's wrong. This should be compute input. What is this pointing to? Compute input. Hey, look at that. We actually have a very different system going on. Okay, so this camera should be looking at the top one down. Okay, so it is. And the random variance here, this is actually each one of the little particles actively fighting each other. More specifically, it's their trajectories constantly changing, constantly like wobbling until you let them go. So this camera captures time into buffer input. Buffer has buffer input. Compute has compute input. Compute input. Buffer has buffer input. Okay. But the buffer input is not rendering the buffer. Camera, buffer input. Input to this texture. So I have no idea what's going on here. Buffer input input should be showing the buffer, but it's not. Buffer input is not showing an active. So it is getting the surface. This is not rendering buffer input like it should be. Rendering path. They're all on UI menu. Bluetooth UI menu. Okay. Graphic color. Fast flow, right size, no clamp, not sure why it's not updating. Camera is updating. It clearly sees what's going on there, but when I go to buffer input, it's not getting any kind of data in. Something went wrong? Question mark? Like the camera is outputting to it. Nothing is actually getting into it. See it trying. There's the flower doing its thing there. The data isn't get to there. Yeah, I didn't think that was. Okay, so there is more problems. In which case, I'm not very sure what's happening. Might make sense to recreate the render textures. I'm just going to go ahead and do a setup and make sure things are okay. Create render texture. Call it test, create camera, call it test. Untag, reference, camera, main camera, main display. Now let's see if this... No. Okay, so I did that because I thought maybe I was trying to use one of these cameras unintentionally as the main display camera. And that looks like false. And I also figured maybe it was because it wasn't in a camera in game mode that it wasn't displaying, like updating the actual render texture, which is also false, or no. So yeah, we still have that set up not correctly there. Which is why I'm going to do this again, camera, and we'll call this one test, is what we're originally down the path of. Now assign test into the render texture of that camera. I'm going to go ahead and turn that around. Let it like just capture whatever in this have to be the the render textures there. Okay, so this is just going to capture test is 1024, 1024. 2D, we're going to do that one. R16, U16. Ah, that gives me more than the others did. But that is correct. ARGB or RGBA 16. Yeah, clamp, point filter that we don't hear. Yeah, look at that, it already has data in it. So that's telling me that something may be wrong with render textures here. They should have data already. They're actively pointing to, cameras are actively pointing to a thing. So if I look at this camera, this should be showing, that's fine, that should, black is okay on that. This should, oh! Ah! 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 Unrehearsed. Camera was off. All of that was because one camera was off. There, now data is correct. Okay, so those should be non-displayable to the whole thing. But where are, oh, there they are. There's our flower appearing in a very strange place. It's probably maybe because of constraint. Go ahead and remove it. So this is using render geometry conversion, but I have over here on gold, my avatar version, I guess, two particles render. Okay, so particle there. Render point cloud, render point conversion. I don't know which one's which. I think this is supposed to be bigger, by the way. Try again. Data, it's running, it's echoing. There's a GPU particles not doing what they're supposed to. So maybe the problem here is that I'm using nope. Number of vertices 8. Seems to be the same setup. But my little flower is just sitting down here. It is creating points, though. These are the correct thing it's supposed to be doing. for the most part. Just doing it in a place that's wrong. Default shape scale. I can't say I know what's going on there. Simulation is borked. Look at the. That's how you know it's actually working. Is because you see the values changing intensely like that. You see them moving in a pattern. That means the simulation is actually running. If I tighten it up, you'll see it all go back to that pattern. See the colors fading the way it is, almost classically. That's the gravity system thing. So the simulation is definitely doing its job. It's this renderer that's not doing its job. I'm going to go ahead and do this for the release. And select this shader specifically. Oop. Ink it out of that, which is the old repository. I'm going to go into particle. Go. Particle renderer. Hello. Particle renderer. Particle. Did put it there, didn't I? Particles. Blah. Particle render dot shader. Oh, okay, so it decided to clone it after I okay, whatever. Your flower, we'll go back to renderer. And okay, so it was based off the same thing. We still have problems. The in some kind of data somewhere. It'd help if we use the right texture. Oh, we didn't have to do any of that. Okay, so this is actually supposed to be on geometry conversion. Or not. There is a difference. Point cloud? No. Tripping me out. Oh, what in the world happened? Not resetting. Compute camera buffer, renderer. Why is the renderer different from this renderer? Very strange. So I will pack that along anyway. So that's that portion of it. Ideally, these 2 bits get hidden from the player, and what everyone sees is the flower bit itself. So the flower bit now, if we actually take the compute and let it go, see it doing its thing. This one's out of the way. Now it's going to go for the center of this system unless you specifically put out this kind of light, point light, which you can have on your avatar, which which already it's going towards because this is flagged as auto, but it should be non-important. And so you're not lighting anyone in the room and causing problems, you should have it black. And it should stay real time. The intensity doesn't matter, the range will matter for how far away you want this to detect, because if I bring it like, whee! If I had a range of 1 on it like this, you'll see it goes, I can't see this thing, and it goes back home. Power to reset. Okay, let it go back to, you'll see, there you go. See that it just goes right back to home if the light to Unity is not actually touching it. So you can do this, but it's kind of not a good idea, but it doesn't really matter all that much. But you could just say like, I'm gonna set that to 1000. They put it like there, and you'll see what it does. Hey, let's go ahead and just like reset that a little bit, and then there you go. And you can see it's following the light specifically. But this light configuration is what you're going to want to do to have on your hands. These lights, when they're on your hands, and just to show as a point of reference, like you just go in here, the hips, spine, chest, right shoulder, right arm. You may, and again, this video is not made for people who are new to avatars. So if you're new to avatars, I would say get a little more experience in other things first before attempting to do something like this. Please, this is not something to just dive right into as your first attempt of doing something on an avatar. Yeah, make sure you get some good experience with avatars first before attempting to actually figure all of what's going on here out. But this point light goes into your hand, and the reason why I say that, somebody experienced to work on this is because if this point light is not toggled, you'll have people angry at you. They'll see lights and they won't. They'll probably hide you. So you probably don't want that to happen. So you should have these toggled off in some way. There's also certain effects people use that, if your light is on, causes problems. So you want to make sure that you have some kind of toggle system for turning them off, which of course turning them off will cause it to go back to its default place. Turning them on goes towards your hand. But in general, you put it right in your hand like that, and then you have a toggle system on your avatar to turn them on and off. And obviously the same goes for the GPU system, or particle system as well. So the other advanced bit that I want to show, now that you see all this, and as I say, let's look at the camera here. Here's this camera pointed at. See the reference camera, and somehow ended up in oblivion. Let's insert that reference camera. This position for this, honestly, I usually like to get about 1 eye. I don't know where. There we go. Okay, and I usually like it about 1 meter away from me. Okay. So that will do that. Let's set up this camera. This one's back on. Our reference camera. Maybe get it. Well, not necessarily one. Let's up so you can see what's going on. Let's turn off. Put this up to a VRChat. is obviously a mirror, but have none of that stuff. So now when we hit play and look at the game camera, see the particle is just kind of doing the thing there. And this is probably what you've seen me in VRChat do. So that's basically the VRChat eye. Right, okay. This video is going on far longer than I would hope, but let's wrap it up. One last tiny thing, and we're good. Particles. My toys here. This is a setup bit that's a little fun. So here's the particle thing. And the container that needs to exist, which is interesting, yes. It's basically those constraints. I'm not even going to bother setting this up on, what the hell is set up on. So let's go ahead and create, as it says, a container. Okay, so put that container in there. You know what? I'm going to just go ahead and show you the way I set this in the first place, actually. There's a prefab that this thing is, world space. So Lindes, that's who it is. Look up Lindes. Lindes has a world fixed object. It's a thing that you can get from them. I'm going to go ahead and just grab that prefab out of my system there. And then I will put it in here. And then Lindes. I'll also, I don't know about the copyright on this one, so, because I know it's a community asset, but I don't know what the redistribution rules are on this. Here's her information for this background information, what it is. I don't really see a license here. Maybe there's a video for how to set it up. You're welcome to obviously go to that video to check it out. But the general concept of this little thing is it's pretty simple. You take the world space and you just put that right there in your avatar. You take the particles, put that inside the container. We can delete that. And we can just call this GPU particles. And then, okay, looks like it's missing some setup. But the basics of everything are there, but not everything was placed. So this is taking body and body. So we'll give it as it asks for. Is that body? Okay, so it is looking at the physical body, in this case face for this avatar face. Reasons for that, but not going to go into them right now. Container, we have container actually pointing to the same thing. And then funkiness ensues. Yeah! I love it when things just go crazy and weird. Yeah! So we're just gonna go ahead and 90 degree that. There you go. And what is this? Looks like -1 it should be. There we go. So just correct the position. Fine. Save. And so now if I hit play, it should still work. Goes. Yeah, it's doing its thing. So the other initial bits to set up here is that obviously this is default off. So on your avatar, when you have this set up, you want this off. So when you turn it on, it'll appear, do its thing, and things. Another thing that's default off that you saw was the camera. There's a reason for this, because if it's on when it loads into the world or into the system, it will break. It just won't render. So you have to actually have the cameras off. So that's what was going on earlier when I was trying to figure out what the heck happened. One of the cameras was already set off and the other wasn't. But in your avatar setup, they should be off, just so that way, well, because if they're on when you load, it'll actually just shut them off, and then they'll just be off. So you have to create a manual trigger to turn them on. So that's part of your animation setup for the Avatar 3 configuration. When you go to turn your particles on, you also have to turn on the individual cameras with it. And likewise, when you go to turn your particles off, you have to turn off your 2 cameras as well. Other than that, let's see, particles, that's fine. Container is fine, okay. So everything here is set up correctly otherwise. Just remember when you're setting this up, these bits point to the right things. And I will make sure to actively update this repository with the correct particle stuff, which I will actively do literally right now. Oh, yeah, I'll grab this whole folder here. And then I'll go into the avatars, that one. Go into the particle toy here, and I'll just paste this right here. Let that overwrite everything directory, copying everything. Okay. Matter of fact, though, I did already Google. I should have made sure to update the prefab specifically with that to make sure that wasn't weird. GPU particles buffer, GPU particles camera buffer. This is pointing to compute and check. This is pointing to buffer input. This is using buffer input. This is using. The linear flower is also set up correctly, right? Okay, and we set up with the missing meshes. So let's go ahead and assign that one plane to the. There you are. Make sure those are set so we don't have these problems in the future. There you go. And that should have been enough to edit the prefab, so put in things. This is also good to do too because I have not yet necessarily upgraded this to Unity 2019, so this is kind of also forcing me to do so. So there's that bit, and neural particles. Okay, I'm going to go ahead back here and copy it yet once again. For good measure, well, because we updated the mesh, or the prefab. So there we go. And then right here, I will make sure to commit. And we're missing stuff. Get that. Get it. Okay. Fixed broken setup for avatars. There you go. And I will make sure to push it. Alright, and so what did I have on the site? Did I have particle toy, this release is just a zip file and an APK. Can I create it? Oh yeah, I can just create a new release. I'm going to create a tag here now that's been created. Okay, I guess I just created a new release. Draft new release. We'll call this version 5.1. Yeah, say enough was done to make it version 6.6. update, and that, see, another thing about my versioning scheme too is that 0.5 means it's not even an alpha. This was just like, I created this as this code and was archiving it, putting it away. It wasn't necessarily meant to be actively in this one. But I'm going to go ahead and do that and then say update. Fixed and added some components. Fix prefabs or prefab for avatars and added some. If you want to use this in a world, you'll have to alter that here. Tags, right? So I need to create that tag. 6 out. Hopefully after doing that, be able to create release 0.6.8. New tag, thank you. Okay. The other bit isn't going to change. So is okay. Assets. This thing. I'm not going to change this bit, so I'm just this. This is an APK you can for your Android, which was the intent of this project bit here. You just copy that onto your Android. It should work. That's already a built pre-made things. Should just work. It's unnecessary for this video though, but there we go. It has been released. Just download this source code from version 0.6.0. Obviously, always check for newer version. I've had a problem with the marker, at least, that people come to my videos looking for the newest, or for the marker, and they end up downloading an old version. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a link to releases in the video, but make sure, and I'll probably also make sure to link Lindus's old space drop object. You're going to need both of those, basically, the most recent release of this and the drop and world space drop object. And then you can do this yourself. But that concludes this video. For listening to me ramble first thing in the morning. Go ahead and give this a shot yourself, and good luck.